Yeah, we are in James chapter 5, and I feel like me and Dorvin and Josh were all kind of in the same vibe a little bit here with, waiting and resting in the Lord and, taking His yoke upon us, and yeah, finding that calm and stillness. We're gonna start with a video that is one of the cutest things. I laugh hysterically every time, so forgive me if I bust out laughing as we watch this. Oh, Josh, can you do my audio?
All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you.
Sorry. I got two.
Alright. Oh, you gotta click me in again.
Okay, sit in that chair. All right, here's the deal. Marshmallow for you. You can either wait, and I'll give you another one if you wait, or you can eat it now. When I come back, I'll give you another one, so then you'll have two. And stay in here and stay in the chair till I come back, okay? All right. I'm gonna go do something and then I'll come back.
It's yummy. This smells really good.
Alright, so it's up to you. You can have it now or you can wait. Okay? I'll be back. Stay in the chair, okay? Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna leave and then I'll come back, okay? So you can either eat it right now or you can wait. Either way, okay? Okay.
I hear what you're saying, but.
How'd you do? Did you do good? You did? You wanted to eat it, didn't you? Yeah. So did I tell you to give you another one? Okay, now you can have both. You need them.
The video is demonstrating that delayed gratification, which kiddos are not good at doing, right? They're being asked to be patient and wait because there's something greater that is promised to them, that you can have 2 whole marshmallows, right? What did you notice about them as they tried to wait? What did they do, and what did you see? They like to smell it, yep. Or taste it. Some of them did a little nibble.
Distraction.
Huh?
Distraction.
They were fidgeting and bouncing and, trying to look away from it, but let me touch it with my hand while I look away. Okay.
One that tapped his head to get some discipline.
Yep, yeah, gotta focus up, right? Pay attention here, okay? So they're trying to kind of regulate themselves in this moment of distress. This is a kind of baseline definition of patience being the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset, right? My parents would always do if you were waiting for something, but you were like whining about it, you weren't actually being patient, right? So like being able to wait for it without getting angry or upset. And if you put this in context of our relationship to the Lord, it's continual trust in God's timing and character. But baseline, it's a situational emotional regulation, right? And since I talk about emotional regulation in my job all the time, you guys are going to get a mini brain science lesson, okay? So if you put your fists together, that's about the size of your brain, right? The left half of your brain, you gotta tuck your thumbs inside as well, right? The left half of your brain controls the right side of your body, the right half of your brain controls the left side of your body. Your brain develops from the bottom up and from the inside out. So the first things that develop is the survival brain. So like you have a little bit of all of it, but the stuff that comes online first is your survival brain, which is all the automatic stuff that you do. So that's what Jonathan's got going for him right now. It's all the just like survival stuff. So like I'm hungry, I need my diaper changed, I'm uncomfortable. He's doing this survival kind of thing. So I don't tell my stomach to digest food. I don't tell my kidneys to do that thing. It's like holding my muscle tension and all that. It's just the automatic thing. The next layer up, so this is your survival brain. The next layer up in here is we call your emotions brain. So this is seeking safety and connection, wanting to have that control, right? Like I want the thing that I want, right? And have that happiness side, right? And then on the very top, the diagram calls it your smart brain. I like to call it your thinking brain. I think all of your brain is smart, but this is your thinking brain, where executive functioning and problem solving, decision making, that delayed gratification lives. And kiddos develop, from the bottom up and from the inside out. And so this is harder for them to do all of that executive functioning. But as that like sensory information comes in to our body, the things we hear, see, feel, smell, taste, I think I got all of them there, it runs through your survival brain, and then to your emotions brain, and then to your thinking brain. And sometimes these different parts of our brain like hijack that situation, and they're like, we have to do something about this before it can go all the way up to your thinking brain to like have a logical decision making about it. So like you touch something hot, that sensory information comes up, it gets to your survival brain, and it says, we can't wait the millisecond for this to go up to our thinking brain, and our thinking brain say, yes, that is something hot and it's burning our hand and we need to pull it away. The survival brain says, nope, we gotta do it right now, which is why your hand pulls away before you've actually registered that it was hot, right? So it hijacks that moment and does it for you. Your thinking brain kind of goes offline. Sometimes it goes from your thinking brain into your emotions brain, right? And it says, we have a disconnect, a distress happening right now where we can't like tolerate what's going on, and so we have to like do something about it. This is where like that fight, flight, freeze lives, that you see something that's really threatening to you and your body goes, blah, we have to do something about this, right? And that response kicks in to keep us safe. But our brain is not very good at like differentiating between when something's like a emotional, relational, social threat and when something is a physical threat. So this is why like this happens for me. If somebody sends me a text and they're like, hey, we need to talk, my brain goes, blah, what's going on? And it kind of freaks out a little bit. And it would have that same kind of blah freak out if I like saw a tiger, right? One of those is a physical threat and one is a relational threat, but my brain has that same kind of reaction to it, right? My thinking brain kind of goes offline. So a way that we can keep our thinking brain online is to ground ourselves, right? Which is using all of that sensory information up here in the top part of our brain. It keeps that part online, okay? And I promise this is going to make sense, okay? So it brings that back online. So of those three parts, where does your breathing live generally, do you think? In your survival brain, right? It's down in the bottom. When I'm just existing, my breathing lives down in my survival brain. It just doesn't, right? But whenever I decide, like, and I'm gonna hold my breath, and I'm gonna intentionally let it out, that puts it up here in my thinking brain, because I'm consciously thinking about what I'm doing. So it moves that sensory information of my lungs filling up with air from down here up to the top, right? all that sensory information of like your lungs filling up, like it's going up here, but your survival brain says, no, that's not important information to get all the way up here yet, right? We don't have to have that. We like filter out a lot of stuff. Like if you go into a room that has a strong smell, and then after a while you don't notice it anymore, the smell's still there, but your brain has started to just filter it out, right? They're like, it's not important. So that's some of those things. But if we can ground ourselves using our senses up here on top, noticing the sights, sounds, smells around us. I did this with my niece the other night. I was stopping in to say bye to them, and the boys were outside in the driveway playing a game called Roof Ball that they made up. And it was pretty late at night, and Sydney was inside, and as I walked in the house, my brother was telling her, no, you have to go to bed. You're overtired, you have to go to bed. You can't go outside and play ball with the boys. And she melted down, right? And she ran to her room, and I was like, well, I still want to say goodbye to you before I go back to Ohio. So I went in and talked to her, and I had to get her to kind of like start noticing, like, oh, do you see, like your little kitty cat knick-knack there, and like, oh, you have a unicorn over there, and like having her notice all the different stuff in the room so that her thinking brain would come back online, and we could kind of talk through things, okay? So patience is that like ability to come up here, right, and use that thinking brain to mediate the distress that we're experiencing. And in our relationship with the Lord, to come back to Him and the eternal truths and promises that we know, that we can trust in His timing and His character, right? But our bodies do have functions that they do, right? And so we can use the creativeness of how our bodies are made in relationship with the Lord to develop that patience and exercise it. Okay, so we've been very up here, but there's like baseline, regular times, common things where we need to exercise patience. Like when you're waiting for your food at a restaurant. I had that experience very recently where like it took way longer than it should have for us to get our food at the restaurant. I got into a traffic jam on my way to Maryland the other weekend where I was just like sitting there. And that's one that I have to really intentionally be like, no, it's okay. You will get there when you get there, right? Like it will be fine. Like getting worked up about this isn't going to get us anywhere. Or maybe you're waiting for, this flaky person on Facebook Marketplace to please get back to you about whether or not you can get that item, right? Like we can exercise some patience there. So let's read our text. James chapter 5, verses 7 to 11. Be patient then, brothers, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, and how patient he is for the autumn and spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Don't grumble against each other, brothers, or you will be judged. The judge, with a capital J, is standing at the door. Brothers, as an example of patience in the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. So there's kind of three category situations where we're all in categories where we exercise patience. So when the results seem delayed, we're waiting for the fruits to come, or our circumstances are uncontrollable. The challenge here is that we want an outcome. We want to have the thing that we want, right? This middle part of our brain is like, but I need a thing. I need a thing, right? But we can't have it. Or it's delayed. Maybe we haven't been told no, but we've been told wait. And that's tough to do, right? But the farmer waits patiently, right? Does he plant his crops and then just like, all right, now I just sit back and I do nothing? No, like you go out and you water it and you fertilize it and you pull the weeds and you take care of those things, right? My garden went crazy. Some of my plants went crazy and some of them died, and I don't really know why the different ones chose what they did. So, I ended up with a dill plant that was 5 feet tall. I was like, where did this come from, right? But like, I'm not just like putting it all in there and then just stepping away. It needs water and it needs attention. And so as we continue to work while we wait, standing firm, and holding that hope even when we don't see it yet. So, when our circumstances are uncontrollable, when community or relationship strains us, when people are unchangeable, when there's hardship among believers, we can start to grumble. We can start to think poorly of people and speak poorly of people. And James says, don't grumble, lest you be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. Like, even when things are tough, we need to like guard our words and our attitudes. Cognitive behavioral therapy says that our thoughts impact our emotions, impact our behaviors, and our behaviors impact our thoughts, and it goes in this nice little triangle that they all impact each other, right? The words that we speak have an impact on how we feel about people, have an impact on how we treat other people. And, you know, like, I find myself sometimes getting into a little cycle where it's like, I'm kind of frustrated with this person. And then I tell somebody about it and I'm kind of speaking negatively about them. And then like, they're like, oh yeah, and then we kind of ramp each other up in that way, right? But even in those difficult times, it's important for us to maintain unity and look forward to the promised return of Christ. Right? Hardship doesn't excuse unkind behavior. It's not like we can have that acknowledgement of this is tough and I will be generous. Right? We're having a conflict and I will be generous in this. When suffering or oppression presses in. This is very Job-like, right? And we've spent a lot of time with Job recently. But the verses say, you know, that the prophets are held up as examples for us. You heard the perseverance of Job, and the Lord is compassionate and merciful. This is the only mention of Job in the New Testament. Just a little bit interesting to me. But there is this like promise that follows that God is compassionate. I can't remember what translation of the Bible it is, or what version, that the phrasing there is an intended end to the things that you're experiencing, right? The Lord has an intended end for what is happening. That like, you have seen what the Lord has finally brought about. The Lord has an intention with this. So even when our problems feel unexplainable, to remember the Lord's intended end. I wanted to look at, not at Job, because we've spent a lot of time with Job, but at one of the prophets. Does anybody want to take a guess into what prophet I chose with this? Examples of patience. Jeremiah! There we go. Sometimes called the weeping prophet. Jeremiah is called when he's young, and God warns him that this is not going to be a popular thing that you have to say. This is not going to be a, you know, like a great experience for you. He's on this mission. He's on this mission to speak truth to a rebellious people and announce judgment and call for repentance. And when I kind of like thought of it that way, I remembered sometimes as a kid being asked to like go tell my brothers like, hey, mom said to stop doing that, right? And be like, here I am going as a messenger to tell you you're doing something wrong and you need to stop and like come back and, you know, change what you're doing. And that did not earn me any popularity points in a way. But the lesson in this part being that like patience means that we continue on in the mission even when it's hard and lonely. That like obedience to God doesn't always bring success and comfort, but resistance and pain, right? But we continue to be patient, trusting in the Lord's intended end. Jeremiah was mocked, imprisoned, beaten, thrown in a cistern. All kinds of things happened to this man. They all turned against him because his message was unpopular. And he cries out to the Lord, "O Lord, you deceived me and I was deceived. Everyone mocks me. But if I say, I will not mention him, his word in my heart is like fire." I am weary of holding it, and indeed I cannot. And despite this like discouragement, he's like, I can't not talk about you, right? He's pressed by the Lord's, just the majesty of the Lord and the mission that he has been called to, and he can't stop speaking God's truth. Perseverance and patience is that faithful witness. Even when we are misunderstood in our intention or in our, in what we're giving to other people, and that's a tough one for me. Like when I feel like someone has misunderstood me, or is mischaracterizing me, that like they didn't get my intention behind what I was doing, that's really tough for me. I want to be like, no, like this is what I actually meant. This is the thing, like you don't get it. And if you got it, then you would like be okay with it, right? And sometimes we just misunderstand each other, right? And then you have to exercise patience in being misunderstood and trust in the Lord with that. You could look at his ministry kind of like a failure. You could, but he like that like his message was like a lot ignored a lot, right? That Jerusalem fell, people were exiled. This is the tragedy that he talked about. But God considered him faithful, servant who endured without giving up when nobody listened. This patience of trust in God's long-term purpose. That faithfulness is success in God's eyes, even when it looks like failure to us. Part of our patience is that, like I said, like trust in God's character and timing. And the psalmist gives us lots of language around patience. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. David's not just waiting, just like quietly and just like, like he includes a cry to the Lord, and trusts that he will act in his time. We can make our case known to the Lord while we wait, right? But as we've kind of learned through Job, the like demanding of God, and putting our version of what it is ahead of the Lord's will, right, is where we can go astray. Psalm 69 is this psalm of deep suffering. David says, but I pray to you, O Lord, in the time of your favor. In your great love, O Lord, answer me with your sure salvation. Waiting well involves being honest about things that we are waiting for and asking for relief in God's time. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, for those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. We don't have to envy the wicked or be anxious over their successes. Justice is coming, right? And we need to wait patiently for that. Avoid comparing ourselves and lashing out in jealousy. And Psalm 31. But I trust in you, O Lord. I say, yes, you are my God. My times are in your hands. Woof. My times are in your hands. That feels like a big statement to make, that I'm living to give all of my timing into the hand of the Lord. Deliver me from my enemies and from those who pursue me. You surrender control, which is what this part of our brain wants to have. It wants to have control. Okay? But we come back to the truths that the Lord has for us. That he will deliver and there will be justice. When our circumstances are uncontrollable, right? It can be easy to be like, let's be patient and be up here, right? But like these moments when you're sitting in traffic or waiting in a long line, right? When the internet is slow or there's broken technology, right? I gotta tell you a shortened version of me getting this new phone, because it was a trial, right? That I went to Chicago recently and I needed a new phone before I went to Chicago because my old phone, the GPS just like was 25% reliable, and I was like, I can't navigate Chicago without a GPS that works, right? So I was like, I need to get a new phone. I ordered one off of Amazon. It arrives. It was supposed to be an unlocked phone that I could take to, whatever carrier. I took it to Cricket. It was not unlocked, and then I had to pay them like $10 to like tell me that it wasn't unlocked through their trial and error. I was frustrated with that, right? So then I tried to contact the company, and they didn't respond. And so I like send them a return, and I order another one off of Amazon, and it comes, and it is bent, like visibly bent the top corner, and I was like, what just happened? So I contacted them. They were like, we're so sorry. Here's a free free return label, and as soon as we get we know that it's been dropped off at the post office, we'll send your next one out. I did it the exact same day, and I sent it to the post office. And they, sent me the message the next day, like, hey, we've got this out, here's your tracking number. So I'm like, great, and it starts moving. And then on Friday, it's like, Latala is delivering your order. She is supposed to be delivered today. And it's like 11 to 1, and then it's like 3 to 5. And it's like before 8 p.m. And I'm like, where are you? I need this phone, right? And it never comes. It never arrives, and it never arrives. And so I contact them, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we don't know. We'll talk to FedEx and figure it out. And then like 4 more days go by, and it still hasn't moved, and FedEx hasn't given any updates. And I'm like, hey, can you like send me another one? And then like we'll do a return to sender, or whenever that one arrives, we'll send it back. And then we would, but we don't have another one of this model to send you. I was like, come on, what are we doing here? So again, they, give me my refund, and I'm like, I'm not ordering off of Amazon ever again. So then I go to another website, and I go to Back Market, and they send me one that, worked great, and it started to load up, and I was like, it had an AT&T logo, and I was like, this is locked. I'm gonna lose mine. It wasn't locked. It just used to be an AT&T phone. So then I finally got my new phone. But it was a whole ordeal, right? Where like I was not being very patient for it, right? We gotta wait for our food to be cooked or something to be repaired. And your car's in the shop, it's like, please just hurry up with this, right? Being stuck in a season of delay. Changing jobs, moving, a dream or an opportunity that you have. Working really hard and not yet seeing the results, when our circumstances are uncontrollable. When people are unchangeable. You gotta listen to someone who talks a lot or makes a lot of mistakes, okay? When you have to deal with a difficult coworker or boss. If you're a parent and you have to repeat the same lesson and boundary again and again. If there's family tensions and you wait for reconciliation or change. Forgiving when we'd rather hold a grudge, we gotta be patient with that. And again, one that hits me, being misunderstood or unfairly criticized. When our problems are unexplainable, this is Job territory, right? When we're waiting for healing or an answer to prayer. When we ask, why, Lord, in suffering and injustice. We gotta trust God's plan, even when life feels unfair and it feels like the bad guys are winning, whoever the bad guys are. When we feel like God is silent in grief or hardship, and when we hope for spiritual growth or revival or breakthrough, it seems slow in coming. What are these principles of patience? Continue in the faithful work. Okay? There's a, I don't know if it's a cliche or saying that you can't steer a stationary ship. In one spot, like you could turn the rudder, but it's not actually going to impact anything. You keep moving, like the farmer keeps sowing and tending and acting, not being passive or negligent just because the results are delayed. Guarding our heart and our speech to avoid that grumbling and bitterness. To stay loving and gentle, especially in community, because like vulnerability is hard, but it's also really rewarding, right? And it's the thing that can keep us connected and soft. Crying out to God honestly. Using the Psalms as our models, lament, confess, petition. It's not unspiritual to express pain or frustration. Anchor your hope in God's character and promises. That like God is compassionate and merciful. His timing is perfect even when it's delayed. And reminding yourself of the past faithfulness like the psalmist did. I talk with kids sometimes about, and I think I've even used this analogy with you guys before, like what color the sky is. They're like, the sky is blue. We know that. Like, unless something really funky is going on, the sky is blue. Like, what can we go back to again and again that we know is true? And we know that the Lord is compassionate and merciful. Remember the end intended by the Lord. Waiting with the expectation that the Lord will act in fullness one day. And encourage one another in waiting. Sharing those testimonies of God's faithfulness and praying for patience for one another. And in pursuit of that one. This is your small group discussion points. To share stories with each other of the times when you needed to in the past or are still needing to exercise patience. Praising the times that God has been faithful and shown patience through hardship. And then we spend a little time praying for patience for each other. So I'm going to give you about 7-8 minutes to do spend some time with each other, and then I'll